Herobrine. In 2010, while Minecraft was still in its alpha stage, a forum post claimed that a strange figure had appeared in a single-player world. The character looked like the default model, Steve, but with completely white eyes, and was called Herobrine. The original post was removed, sparking more speculation. Soon, screenshots and YouTube videos began circulating, showing a distant figure standing in the fog, strange things happening in the game, and messages left by someone watching the players. Some people demonstrated a method to summon Herobrine using specific blocks, calling it the Herobrine Totem. Many people tried to make the totem, saying it didn't work. Players also claimed Herobrine created unnatural structures such as ocean pyramids, leafless trees, and long tunnels carved through mountains. As the story spread through 2010 and 2011, the legend expanded. Rumors claimed that Herobrine was actually the ghost of the deceased brother of Minecraft's creator, Notch, and haunted players' worlds. There was no evidence to support this theory, but it spread rapidly among the players who encountered the story online. Notch addressed the rumors directly on his Twitter account, stating that he had no brother and that Herobrine was never part of the game's code. Yet the legend continued to grow. Herobrine appeared in the Minecon 2011 promotional banner, placed among other game characters, and official patch notes repeatedly included the line, "Removed Herobrine." Although intended as a joke, these references were widely interpreted by players as confirmation that the figure had once existed in the game. Combined with forum discussions, screenshots, and fan videos, these moments kept Herobrine at the center of online conversations. Happy Tree Friends. In 1999, a web animation called Happy Tree Friends appeared online. At first glance, it looked like a harmless children's cartoon. The characters were colorful forest animals and the animation style was bright and simple. However, the series quickly became known for doing the opposite of what its visual style suggested. Each episode followed a similar structure. It began with ordinary, cheerful situations like friends spending time together, simple daily activities, playful interactions. Then a small mistake or accident triggered an exaggerated chain reaction. The result was extreme, over-the-top cartoon violence. The contrast between the cute character design and the sudden graphic outcomes became the defining feature of the show. Because of this sharp contrast, many first-time viewers were caught off guard. Some people who discovered the series at a young age later described feeling disturbed or uncomfortable, especially if they expected a typical children's cartoon. The unexpected shift between innocence and chaos created a strong reaction, and for some viewers, those first impressions stayed memorable for years. The episodes were short and fast-paced, which made them easy to share during the early days of internet video platforms. Viewers knew something would go wrong, but they didn't know how it would happen. That unpredictability kept people watching. The formula rarely changed, yet the shock value and timing gave each episode its impact. Lavender Town. Lavender Town is one of the best-known places in Pokémon Red and Pokémon Blue, released in 1996. In the game, it is a small town centered around the Pokémon Tower, a place where Pokémon are laid to rest. Compared to the bright and cheerful tone of most areas in the game, Lavender Town feels noticeably different. The environment is quieter, the theme is darker, and the background music is slower and more haunting than the rest of the soundtrack. Over time, this difference led to the creation of a popular internet legend often called the Lavender Town Syndrome. According to the story, the original Japanese version of the game supposedly contained a version of the Lavender Town music that caused headaches, anxiety, or other unusual reactions in children who played it. Some versions of the legend even claimed the sound used extremely high-frequency tones that were difficult for adults to hear but uncomfortable for younger players. The story spread quickly across forums, creepypasta websites, and video platforms in the late 2000s and early 2010s. As the story gained attention, new details were added, including claims about altered game files, mysterious patches, and removed sound frequencies. These additions made the legend feel more complex and believable, even though the original claims were never supported by evidence. In reality, there is no confirmed record that the music in Lavender Town caused the effects described in the legend. The soundtrack of the original games was composed by Junichi Masuda, and there is no documentation suggesting that the music contained harmful frequencies. Little Baby's Ice Cream. In the early 2000s, a disturbing video suddenly caught the internet's attention. The footage showed a person covered in ice cream, calmly eating scoops from their own head, while a voiceover said lines like, "I eat little baby's ice cream." The tone was unsettling, almost hypnotic. The video didn't clearly explain its purpose or why it existed. Instead, it relied on confusion to capture attention. As discussions around the video increased, it became clear that it was a commercial. The clip was created as part of a marketing campaign for a small Philadelphia-based company called Little Baby's Ice Cream. Instead of promoting flavors in a conventional way, the brand chose shock value and surreal imagery to make itself impossible to ignore. The strategy worked. Some viewers found the ad creative and humorous, while others described it as disturbing. But whether people loved it or hated it, they shared it. The viral attention pushed the brand far beyond its local audience and turned it into an internet talking point. Smile Dog. Smile Dog is a disturbing image that began circulating online in the early 2000s. The image shows a husky staring directly at the camera with an unnaturally wide human-like grin. According to the creepypasta story, anyone who sees the image, often referred to as smile.jpg, begins experiencing insomnia, paranoia, and vivid nightmares. The story claims that victims were eventually compelled to share the image with others. Repeating the message spread the word. As the myth grew, edited versions of the image began appearing across horror websites. The narrative evolved with each retelling. In some versions, the image was said to be cursed, while in others, it was described as a digital entity that could not be deleted. A frequently repeated detail involved a person documenting sleepless nights and growing distress after opening the file. The only way to stop the symptoms was to send the image to someone else. In reality, Smile Dog is a fictional creepypasta created as part of early internet horror culture. There is no verified cursed file, and no evidence that viewing any version of the image causes harm beyond a normal fear response. Talking Angela. In the early 2000s, a rumor about Talking Angela, a character from the popular mobile game series Talking Tom, began spreading across the internet. According to the rumor, if players looked closely at Angela's eyes in the game, they could supposedly see reflections of a person or a room behind the screen. Posts on social media warned parents that the app was secretly recording children, or that someone was watching through the character's eyes. As this story went viral, screenshots began appearing online that seemed to show shapes or silhouettes. Many people shared these images as proof, even though the pictures were often low quality or heavily zoomed in. Because the app was designed for children and allowed simple chat interactions, the rumor quickly turned into a broader fear about online safety and privacy. The story was widely discussed on platforms such as Facebook and YouTube, and was even mentioned in news reports. Warning posts encouraged parents to delete the app immediately. In some versions of the rumor, the claims became more extreme, suggesting that strangers could communicate with children through the chat feature or observe them through the device's camera. However, investigations into the claim found no evidence that the app contained hidden surveillance features. The developer, Outfit 7, publicly stated that the rumors were false and that the reflections people believed they saw were simply part of the character's animated eye design. Security researchers and technology journalists reached similar conclusions after examining the app. Slender Man. Slender Man is often described as a tall, unnaturally thin figure wearing a black suit and a completely blank face. He typically appears in forests or empty areas, standing at a distance, partially hidden in the background of photos. Eventually, consistent traits were attached to him: memory loss, missing children, electronic interference, and the persistent feeling of being watched. The legend began spreading in 2009 when images and short captions introduced the character online. As the story circulated across forums and early social media platforms, more users contributed additional sightings, images, and descriptions. Over time, the repetition of the same details across different posts made the story feel increasingly real to some audiences. In reality, Slender Man was created during a Photoshop contest on Something Awful. A user named Eric Knudsen, known as Victor Surge, digitally inserted the faceless figure into black and white photographs and added short captions about missing children. Everything associated with Slender Man developed after that initial post through collaborative online storytelling.